Every afternoon at 4 p.m., Walter Hughes, 76 years old, walked to Lincoln Park, cane in one hand, newspaper in the other. He always sat on the same bench, the one near the duck pond under the old oak tree. It was his bench. At least, it had been for years. Walter was a man of routines. Tea at 7 a.m., crossword at 10, lunch at noon. He didn't like change, especially not the kind that brought noise, new faces, or trouble into his quiet life. That's why he noticed immediately when someone else began showing up at his time, sitting on his bench. A boy, no older than 11, skinny, bright-eyed, with scuffed sneakers and a worn hoodie. He always carried a tattered notebook and a pencil. And he was black. Walter didn't like to admit it, not even to himself. But something about that bothered him. Not loudly, not with anger, just a stiffness in his chest. A bias he'd learned but never questioned. So the first time he saw the boy sitting there, he cleared his throat and said gruffly, "This is usually my bench." The boy looked up, unfazed. "Then I guess now it's ours." Walter huffed but didn't argue. He sat at the far end. They didn't speak again that day, or the next. But by the fourth afternoon, Walter glanced over. "What's in that notebook of yours?" The boy didn't look up. "Stories." "What kind of stories?" "Ones where people change." Walter raised a brow. "Sounds made up." The boy finally met his eyes. Most real things feel made up to people who've never seen them. Walter said nothing. The next day, Walter brought 2 apples. He offered one silently. The boy took it without hesitation. After that, they became an odd pair. Day after day, they sat. Walter reading the paper, the boy writing his stories. Gradually, the silence gave way to conversation. The boy's name was Malik. He lived with his grandmother, a retired schoolteacher who made the best peach cobbler on the block. His parents? Gone, but not forgotten, he said. Walter told him about his wife, Linda, who had passed 10 years ago, about how they used to feed the ducks together, about the daughter who lived 3 states away and never visited. They started bringing snacks, sharing jokes, trading stories. One day, Malik handed Walter his notebook. "I want you to read this one." Walter opened to a story called The Man on the Bench. It was about an old man stuck in his ways, and a boy who changed him without trying. At the end, the man opens his heart. He realizes that love doesn't come in familiar packages, and he begins to smile again. Walter's hands trembled. His throat tightened. "You think that's me?" he asked softly. Malik smiled. It was. That night, Walter couldn't sleep. He thought about all the years he'd spent closing doors, about the people he'd judged without knowing, about how much he'd missed by being afraid of what was different. The next day, Walter brought something new, a photograph of his wife, Linda, holding a baby, their grandson, born years ago. The boy in the picture had curls, brown skin, big eyes. "My grandson," Walter said quietly. "His mom, my daughter, married a man from Jamaica. I was distant. I never really accepted it." Malik looked at the photo. "He looks like he would have liked the ducks." Walter chuckled through his tears. "Yeah," he said. "I think he would have loved the bench, too." A week later, Malik didn't come, nor the next. Walter began to worry. On the 3rd day, he asked around and found Malik's apartment. He knocked on the door. Malik's grandmother answered, surprised. "Malik's got the flu," she said. "Didn't think anyone would notice." Walter brought soup the next day, then books, then chess. By the time Malik returned to the park, he found a plaque newly placed on the bench. "For those who teach us to see differently, W.H.&M." Malik ran his fingers over the engraving. He didn't say a word. He just smiled and sat down. From then on, it was their bench. Not his, not mine, ours. And every afternoon at 4 p.m., a man who once feared change and a boy who wrote stories about it sat together, side by side, living proof that love can rewrite even the oldest lines. If this story warmed your heart, please consider subscribing. Because kindness is contagious, and we believe every story shared brings us closer. Watch till the end. The smallest moments often hold the biggest lessons.